Okay, so first question is, how do you describe the location of a point on a graph? Say it louder. How do you describe the location of one of these points on this graph? XY coordinate. Do y'all agree with that? Alright, an XY coordinate tells you, I don't know, it doesn't feel like it's, zoom it in. An XY coordinate to tell you the location, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you agree you do the X and the Y for each of them? We clear with that? Okay, so if I gave you my unit circle, hey, by the way, the unit circle is called the unit circle because my radius is 1 unit. So if I gave you my unit circle, what is the coordinate, and I put it on a graph, what's the coordinate of that point right there? 1, 0. Do y'all all agree with that? And again, don't write down, just look up. And you don't need your laptops right now. What is the coordinate right here? 0, 1. Right here, -1, 0. And 0, -1. Do we all agree with that? Okay? Super basic, right? But what if I give you, or what if I ask you, oh, it's on the back. What about at 45 degrees? Could you tell me what the coordinate at 45 degrees is? What could you do to figure this out? How do I figure out what X value is here and what Y value is here? Louder? Make a triangle. Do you agree the X is how far it goes to the right? Do you agree the Y is how far it goes up? And what did I just create? What kind of triangle? A 45, 45, 90 triangle. And if I created a 45, 45, 90 triangle, do you also agree that my radius is 1? That means the hypotenuse is 1. How do I find out the X coordinate? We learned this, or we talked about this last week. Divide by √2. Right? And then what do? What's that called? Rationalizing. And if I rationalize, does everybody in here agree that I get square root of 2 over 2 for my X coordinate? What's my Y coordinate? Why? It's a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So don't you agree they're going to be the same thing? Cool. There's your coordinate for 45, 45. For 45 degrees. Alright, let's do the same thing for 30 degrees. For 30 degrees, how do I find my coordinate here? Remember, we don't go around the 30. If I know my hypotenuse is 1, what am I going to do? What do I know? Divide by 2, what do I get? 1/2. And then how do I get, that's the short leg, how do I get the long leg? And when we multiply by the square root of 3, I agree that you get 1/2 times the square root of 3. We're not going to write it like that. We're going to write square root of 3 over 2. Does that make sense? So my coordinate, my X, is square root of 3 over 2. My Y is 1/2. We good? Y'all agree we learned that last week and now we're kind of combining what we did last week to this week? Alright, last one is 60 degrees. Again, my hypotenuse is 1. I want to find this coordinate. I don't go around the 30. So what's going to happen here? Say it louder. Divide by 2. And so what's my X coordinate going to be? 1/2. And what's my Y coordinate going to be? Squared. Do you agree that 30 and 60 are just flipped around? Right? So that kind of makes them easy to remember. Alright. Do you also agree that we learned SOHCAHTOA last week. We're literally bringing everything we've learned together today. Do you agree we learned SOHCAHTOA last week and that sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent? Okay. So let's go back to this. What if I asked you to find the sine of 45 degrees of my unit circle? What is sine? Opposite over hypotenuse. Well, what is my opposite here? What's the opposite value right there? Square root of 2 over 2. What is my hypotenuse value? And what is the square root of 2 over 2 divided by 1? Square root of 2 over 2. And what if I asked you about the cosine of 45? I have the adjacent over the hypotenuse. What is my adjacent right here? Square root of 2 over 2 over 1, which is just, alright, that one doesn't really help us, but I want you to see that there. Now let's do 30 degrees. Let's do cosine first. The cosine of 30 degrees. What's my opposite here? My opposite from 30 degrees is, what is my hypotenuse? 1/2 divided by 1 is 1/2. Let's do sine. Wait. Yeah, it is adjacent. I'm like, wait, that's not the answer. Sorry. Square root of 3 over 2. Adjacent. That's why we should write it out. Adjacent over hypotenuse. Sorry. It's because I did sine first last time. My sine is my opposite, which is 1/2 over 1, which is 1/2. Do y'all agree? Alright, last but not least, our 60 degrees. Oh, I didn't even finish this. What is my cosine of 60? Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. What is adjacent here? What is my hypotenuse? So what is my cosine of 60? And last but not least, my sine of 60. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. What is opposite? Square root of 3 over 2. What's hypotenuse? So what is that? Do you notice anything that I have been doing or anything that's been happening here? They're all divided by 1, right? Well, okay, my answers are all divided by 2, which is true. But do you agree when I'm dividing here, I'm always dividing by 1? So, what could I say about the cosine and sine? Let me zoom out. Cosine is always adjacent over hypotenuse, right? What is always going to be the adjacent for these triangles? What's always right next to these triangles, these values? Say it louder because I got a fan in my face. The x. Sine is always opposite over hypotenuse, and if my hypotenuse is 1, what is sine always going to be? The y. So, what I need you to know is that your cosine is always going to be the x value of the coordinate, and your sine is always going to be the y value of the coordinate. Okay? We're going to write this down to summarize it if you're like, huh? But just letting you know. Alright? So, let's recap. We're going to do this like 2 or 3 times. What was the point at 0 degrees? What point is this right here? 1, 0. What's the point at 90 degrees? Those are pretty easy to know. Which other one was pretty easy to remember? Do y'all remember what the 45 one was? Why is this one kind of easy to remember? because it's just the same thing. Now the 30 and the 60 are a little bit harder to remember because you know they're the same numbers, right? But do you remember the order? So this one, 60 is 1/2 square root of 3 over 2, and 30 is square root of 3 over 2 1/2. Can anybody look at these and see if they can find a way that you can easily remember which one's which? Say that a little bit louder, Allison. Do y'all see the numerators go 1, 2, 3? If you can remember that the numerator, what are all of these divided by? Somebody had said that earlier. Everything's divided by 2. If you can remember that the numerators go, and actually it's 0, 1, 2, 3, you can have this memorized by the end of today. Does that make sense? Okay, now let's summarize all of this in our notes and make it nice and squeaky clean to help you. We are going to add in page 6. Sine, cosine, and tangent on the unit circle. Sine, cosine, tan on the unit circle. We good? So first thing you need to remember and need to know in order for this to work, and by the way, we are not always going to deal with circles in unit 1 with a radius of 1 unit. However, we'll deal with that next week. For right now, they're always going to be 1 unit. So if our radius is 1, what do we know about the cosine of theta? Cosine of theta is what? Formula. What's cosine? Adjacent over hypotenuse. And I'm going to draw this picture over here. Do y'all agree that's my radius? And that is the y, and this is the x. And this is going to be my theta right there. For the unit circle, if the radius is 1, what is the adjacent? What variable? The x. What's the hypotenuse? What's my hypotenuse? 1. Therefore, what does cosine of theta always equal? X. Y'all have seen the 3 dots like that and know that means therefore, right? Okay. What about sine of theta? What does sine of theta equal? Opposite over hypotenuse. And what is my opposite here? Which value? Which variable? Y. What's my hypotenuse? Therefore, sine of theta equals y. So on the unit circle, yes, your coordinate is still xy, but we also write the coordinate as sine of theta, cosine of theta. Why did I do that? I'm going to confuse y'all. I'm so sorry. I have sine on my mind for some reason. Cosine of theta, sine of theta. Cosine of theta, sine of theta. What questions do I have? Okay, now we're going to draw the first quadrant. And we're going to make this a lot bigger. And we're going to label it like we did What was my coordinate for 0 degrees? 1, 0. For 30 degrees? Square root of 3 over 2. So then what's the other one going to be? 1/2. 45 degrees. Remember, they're the same. And 60 degrees is what's 90 degrees? 0, 1. And this is when your r equals 1. So how might you get questions like this? Actually, your next quiz, which is on Tuesday, is going to look like this. Example 1. What is the sine of 30 degrees? What is this asking? Sine is what? What is your y at 30 degrees equal? What's the y coordinate of 30 degrees? 1/2. And that's it. That's how we do this. What is the cosine of 45 degrees? Cosine is your x value. And really we like 45 degrees because you kind of can't get it wrong, right? So what's my answer? Square root of 2 over 2. What about your sine at 90 degrees? What's the sine of 90 degrees? Why? Sine is your y value. The y at 90 degrees is 1. Is this making sense? Are we okay? Another example that you're going to see on your homework is like example 4. It's going to say, that should not say left. I can't write today. Let f of x equals sine of theta and g of x equal cosine of theta. Find each if theta equals 30 degrees. I'm going to give y'all about 2 minutes to do this. By the way, y'all, while y'all are doing this, I added my remind code to the bottom of my Schoology page. So I think you can click it on your Chromebook and add in your phone number. If not, after 2:35, you can go in and text the 81010 and the code is in the Schoology course. If you did not get a remind from me the other day, definitely join that remind so you can get updates. What is f of theta? Is sine. What's theta? 30. What is the sine of 30 degrees? Sine is the y. What's the y at 30 degrees? 1/2 is your answer. G of theta. What's g? Cosine. And theta? 30 degrees. What is the cosine or the x at 30 degrees? Square root of 3 over 2. Does this make sense? What about f of 2 theta? What's f? The sine of 2 times, what's theta? 30. Well, what's 2 times 30? And what is the sine or the y at 60 degrees? How is that different than D? The 2's on the outside, so what's that going to do? Two stays outside, and we need to find G of theta. Do y'all agree we already found G of theta up top up here? So I'm just going to fill it in. What's 2 times the square root of 3 over 2? Because your 2's cancel. Yeah, you could get 2 square roots of 3 over 2, but they cancel. Reduce it, please. Last one. What is G of theta again? Square root of 3 over 2. And what are we going to do to this? Square it. What is the square root of 3 squared? Just 3. And what is 2 squared? 4. So 3/4. Questions? Alright, last thing I need to teach you is, do you think these are only in the first quadrant? But I only taught you the first quadrant. How do we do everything else? It's going to reflect. So let me show you this real quick. Oh, maybe not, because it... Maybe this one? Nope. It is going to reflect. However, you still have to follow quadrant rules. We did all that. No, I went too far. Oh, like this. So do you see how 60 is going to reflect over there? It's going to do the same thing, kind of like we did with the fractions. So if you want to write in your notebook right here, just as a reminder about your quadrants, what do we know about quadrant 1? They're both positive. What about quadrant 2? X is negative, y is positive. What about quadrant 3? Negative, negative, a little owl. And what about quadrant 4? Positive, negative. Can you pull out your pink sheet, please? Using pencil, we can now add all the coordinates to this pink sheet. And I'm actually going to label the quadrants as like we just did. This will be the third time we're doing quadrant 1 today. I got 3 minutes. You think we can do this in 3 minutes? Let's try. What's 0 degrees? What's the coordinates here? 1, 0. 30 degrees? Square root of 3 over 2, comma, 1/2. 45 degrees. 60 degrees. Is it hard for y'all to see that? Does that help or no? I think one of the lights is out. What am I doing right now? 1/2 square root of 3 over 2. And 90 degrees. 0, 1. What's going to happen with my second quadrant? X will be negative. You're going to reflect all of these, but all of your x's should be, so 120 is going to be negative 1/2 square root of 2. Sorry. I was writing and saying the wrong thing. Negative 1/2 square root of 3 over 2. 135 is negative square root of 2 over 2 square root of 2 over 2. And 150 is negative square root of 3 over 2, 1/2. What's 180? Negative 1, 0. Got me? Yeah, sorry. And then what are you going to do with your third quadrant and your fourth quadrant? Third quadrant, both negative. Make sure you're reflecting the right ones. And then in your fourth quadrant, the y is going to be negative. Is it super dark for y'all? Is it hard to see? Or is it okay? It's hard to see? I don't know why it's so dark. I think that light went out recently. Alright, on Monday, please be on your best behavior.